Good morning. There's a welcome to the first, and what, if it's successful, we hope will become at least an annual event for the sort of community energy world to sort of facilitate, to help to do all the things we want to do here. Royal Geographical Society and sort of this room and this organisation here seems a very appropriate place to hold this. It was set up by people who had inquiring minds. They wanted to understand what was going on, and they were also adventurers, and it's all a bit of an adventure too, isn't it? I think that's what I feel. So welcome to the first, this Co-operative Energy sponsored Community Energy Conference. Traditionally, what I'm meant to do here is, if I've got 15 minutes, I'm meant to spend 10 minutes talking about what we do, and so we feel great about ourselves. I spend 5 minutes talking about what you do, so you feel great about ourselves. So after 15 minutes, we all feel great about ourselves. Can we consider that read and move on? This is what I sort of really want to talk about. And I'm talking quite personally, in a way, from my perspective as somebody who runs a utility company. We have some immense problems facing us, and actually this isn't utility, this is us, this is people. Climate change, IPCC report, the latest one came out, just reinforced the science of the trend towards global warming, the need to deal with carbon emissions and so on. That's a big part of the problem that we face. In the UK in particular, but it applies in other parts of the world too, there is a gap in the amount of electricity that's being generated, or very shortly, and it doesn't matter where it's coming from, we aren't going to have enough if we don't build some more power stations. That's on current projections. If you start taking things like electric cars into account and other forms of home heating like ground source heat pumps, where you're using electricity instead of some other energy source, the electricity demand could be even greater. So we have a need to build more electricity generation. Another part of the problem, I think, is the disconnect we see between the sort of how power is generated, how it's the companies that control that process and our use of it, the link between what we do in our lives and the consequences of the sort of how that power is produced and the emissions and so on, it's quite difficult to make that connection. People in this room are committed to making that connection and making it work, work, but there is a disconnect. There are some other issues around the way the UK energy industry is currently structured. It's a hot political topic, and it's a hot political topic because there is discontent over the way it works. Actually, that's not unique to this country. I spent a couple of days this week at a European energy conference in Amsterdam, and it's a theme that goes throughout other parts of Europe as well. So, sort of three elements to problems that face us. What I want to share with you is how I imagine the future could be. And there's, as an example, I'm going to describe a particular community which is 80% real and 20% mythical. And that's a community of a couple of thousand people, and in that community there is some renewable generation that is owned by individuals like PV. There is a community sort of organisation that is putting up renewables, say a wind turbine, say an anaerobic digester to use the waste from the village. It is also with the community that it is part of, that it is representing and embedded into, helping to bring about a smart grid. And by that, I mean it's allowing people to manage their power consumption according to what's being produced locally. It has the technology, this is all technology that exists, to say, we'll charge the electric cars when the wind's blowing. If actually the battery gets too low, then they'll have to come in anyway. But when the wind's sort of blowing, we will put the power into the electric cars that are in the community. We will use the surplus electricity to run the ground source heat pumps to provide heating and hold that energy in energy storage, for example, for some properties. So it's bringing it all together. It's the community, there's sort of dealing collectively with some of the issues around that make that work, which is going to be about sort of pricing and so on. And the technology is all there, but it's not happening. The start of it has to be around generation, we think, but actually that is the first part of a real community energy sort of story. As I said, if you look across Europe, it's a common theme across Europe, and we've seen in some parts, Germany in particular, and I'm sure that others will be quoting Germany, where community energy has become much stronger, is much more prevalent, and that is breaking the grip, the stranglehold of the big energy companies in Europe. The business pages talk about the challenges that the big energy companies, the E.ONs and RWEs and so on, face, because all these little communities have done stuff, individuals have done stuff, and the big companies now no longer really control how the energy industry works in Germany. And isn't that a problem for them? Isn't that rather good for the people who live there? So that's a sort of European perspective. In the UK, I think we have a very, very interesting political position. If you asked Ed Miliband, Ed Davey, so Labour, Liberal, and Greg Barker, Minister for Climate Change as a Conservative, to write down on a piece of paper how they imagined the industry to be in, say, 7 or 10 years' time, didn't put their names on it, I don't think you could tell who had written which one. None of them see the big six dominating the industry. They all see community energy being a very strong part of the sector. They see a lot more diversification in generation in terms of ownership and control, as well as technologies. They all see a lot more competition in supply, and a lot more sort of communities taking ownership of the supply, tying up together this virtuous circle of where the power's generated and who uses it, and those groups of people controlling it. They don't agree on how to get there. What they do agree on is where we want to be. They don't talk about what they agree on, because that's not so interesting for the press to pick up on, but if you talk to them individually, that's where they are. So that politically, there are open doors for us to push at, and we need to find ways of doing that, and this, I think, can help with it. Certainly currently, DEC is very keen to understand the barriers that are preventing community energy taking off in the same way as it does in Germany, and seeing what they can do to break through those barriers. And some of them are outside DEC's control. There are other regulators involved, and they are endeavouring to help with that. Are they going to get everything solved straight away? With best will in the world, no, they're not. But there is a genuine will to achieve that, and I think we should build and we should keep pushing on doors which are, well, maybe not open, but maybe ajar is a better word. Co-operative energy, and I've talked about kind of my vision for the future. So my vision for the future is not cooperative energy as being the big dominant UK energy company. It is being a very strong hub or node, or whatever you want to call it, in a kind of internet of energy companies, both generation and supply, and that's what sort of we see as being our role, and that's what we're committed to achieving. And I've been asked by Ben Reid, the Chief Executive of Mid-Counties, who's the parent of Co-operative Energy, and whose sort of commitment and courage into starting us off. He regrets he can't be here himself today. He has another meeting which is unavoidable, but he wanted to pass on the commitment that Mid-Counties as our parent, him as the Chief Executive, and the Board of Directors of Mid-Counties have, again, to this shared vision and the importance and strength of community energy, which is why we're happy to run this conference, make it an annual event, make it twice a year if that's what it takes, and do what we can to support this movement. That's most of what I wanted to say. I was just reflecting on the way in this morning, apologies for not preparing this days in advance, and what the real issue is here. I talked about some things. Is it environmental? This climate change, the IPCC report, again, which is just reinforcing that. Is it about carbon reduction? Is it about renewables? Well, I think that's part of it. Is it economic? Is it about the fact that we can do a bit of transference of economic sort of power and save a bit of money maybe, and the UK is not making the investment in generation, so this is another way of doing it and finding that the lights stay on, maybe. Actually, I think it's about people, and I think it's about us, it's about you and me, and everybody that we're involved with and everybody that we represent. Energy is central to our lives. It's central to our lives now, and it's going to stay that way in the future. And it's us taking control of that future. It's us making it work for us, and not just accepting what we're being told and what we're given by large conglomerates. And I think that's what it's about. It's about people, and it's about people taking the power over their power, if you like, over their energy, because of that is so much part of their lives. So that's it, really. It sounds like I've stopped and my voice has given out as well, so that's really all I wanted to say. Hope you enjoyed today. Hope it today is really successful. I'm sure you'll be giving us the feedback on what worked, what didn't work, what we can do better, and enjoy today. I'll pass you over.